call the honourable member for Bendigo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. You know, the only one scaring Australian workers is this Prime Minister, is this government, and is the Minister for Employment and the Minister for Industrial Relations. You know, when I saw that the Minister for Industrial Relations, that penalty rates would stay regardless of the Productivity Commission, it demonstrated again to me how much this government and their minister doesn't understand the bills they have before the House. If this government was serious about backing down on cuts to penalty rates, then this government would withdraw their amendments to the Fair Work Act. The individual flexibility agreements that are sitting before the Senate do one thing. They make people trade away their penalty rates. They make people give up their penalty rates in order to keep their job. And we know that this is what they do because of the way in which workers have spoken out about their concern about the 6 pieces of legislation that attack working people that are sitting before the Senate as we speak. You cannot trust this government when it comes to industrial relations. Working people do not trust this government, and that is why they are speaking out in such opposition to this government's plans for industrial relations. You've got to hand it to this minister for creativity. He tries to bring in cuts to penalty rates through amending the Fair Work Act. We caught him out and working people spoke up. Then he announces a Productivity Commission review that is so broad it actually makes specific reference. It goes to the effort of making specific reference around penalty rates within it. And then what we've seen today is another back down or backflip from this minister. What's next? Is he going to actually try and introduce legislation to cut the minimum wage and to cut penalty rates? You just cannot trust this government when it comes to industrial relations. Take the Prime Minister's contradictions on this very particular issue, declaring that Work Choices was dead, buried and cremated in 2010 on the eve of an election. He then put out words in the media in a radio interview only a few weekends ago talking about penalty rates, where he said, and I quote, "If you don't want to work on the weekends, fair enough, don't work on the weekends. But if you do want to work on the weekends," and lots of particular people do, particularly young people, particularly students who love to work on weekends, then you want to see your employer open for jobs. There's lots of places that are now closed that used to be open. I don't begrudge people the money, but I do say that there needs to be a balance struck between people wanting to work on weekends and people who don't want to work on weekends. Now, all that says is that if you work on the weekend, be prepared not to get paid penalty rates. They're the words of the Prime Minister, a long-winded attack to say, fine, work on the weekends, but you won't get penalty rates. Just how much these penalty rates are worth, and this is what members of the backbench of the government don't understand. In hospitality, the very industry where the Prime Minister is saying, fine, don't work on the weekend, penalty rates are worth $235 per week to somebody working in hospitality. That is a third. That is a third of their wage. I'd like to see the entire government and every MP give up a third of their wage. If you want workers to give up a third of their wage, then you be prepared to give up a third of their wage. Do you work on weekends? Do you work long hours? You get paid extra. You should give up. You should be prepared. If you want these workers to give up a third of their wages, you should be prepared to do the same. And we wonder why this is the contradiction of this government. They are right here, right now, saying that they want to cut penalty rates. Every single one of them is interjecting and saying and supporting the Prime Minister's comments that penalty rates should be cut. But we know it's unpopular, and we know it's unpopular. The polls actually prove it. Essential media suggests that a large majority of of voters do not buy the argument being put forward by the Prime Minister and of the government. We are talking only 18% of voters believe that lower weekend penalty rates would mean that businesses would employ more workers. It is an absolute furphy. It is an absolute furphy, and that is what this government is. All they wish to do is attack working people. They are not interested in creating jobs, and they are not interested in protecting some of our lowest paid workers.
Order. I call the honourable member for